Fish Talk, episode number 48. We saved this one for our guest, Gary Lange. If you haven't seen Gary Lange on my channel before, you could watch him. He does Rainbowfish and Rainbowfish accessories exclusively, pretty much. So, Rainbowfish and plants, I would say.
Rainbowfish accessories.
Yes, and before I get yelled at, the co-host, Joel, is here from the Corvus Oskin channel, and we won't mention where I'm from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No introductions for you, sir.
No.
Not this week.
I wanted to do a little bit of an intro for Gary here. To his credit of being a Rainbowfish nerd, he has a rainbow named after him, Melotania Gary Lange.
Aye.
Oh, it's still Lange I.
Aye, mate.
I'll never get it right. But yeah, so he has a rainbow named after him. You found, how many rainbows have you found? Like, have you been in the group of things that have been discovered?
Well, there's about 15 rainbow species fish that we think are new species. So out of the group that we found, we've gotten 5 or 6 of them named, but I'm pretty confident we're going to find that many.
Nice.
That we've got those already, and we just have to go through the scientific work of counting all the fins and all that nerdy stuff. But
yeah,
I think it's pretty cool.
All right. And so today you've got some stuff lined up, some groups and different things we're going to do. And you guys submit your good questions, and we'll be picking some of the best stuff, and we're going to utilize these 2 hours, which we're starting an hour early, as best we can, because we got to get Gary to the Greater Seattle Aquarium Society meeting. That's tonight. It's at 7 o'clock. It's at Seattle Pacific University. What is your talk going to be about tonight?
I'm doing a talk tonight? Yeah. Oh,
well,
yes,
we'll
I'm doing a talk
we'll
tonight.
Be staring at you.
It's called Blue Eyes, and we're not going to talk about my cats, but we're going to actually be talking about the pseudomagills. They're all known as blue eyes because most of them have really cool blue eyes. They're a lot smaller than the other rainbows, so most of them are only inch and a quarter for the most part, but a little bit different, more like killifish, but a lot of fun. So you guys ought to have a good time. So if you're around, come on out.
Yeah, it's free to come, and hopefully you'll be signing up to be a member. And you brought Rainbowfish eggs, I believe.
Oh yeah, lots of Rainbowfish eggs. So if you're an Airstone member on the Greater Seattle area, take a look there. You'll see some of those fish that you've probably never seen before.
And then that reminded me, because I was going through my spiel a couple days ago, like, what do I need to start with? And I thought, wait, I have to start with the most asked question ever whenever you're on my channel, and that is, where can I get Gary Lange's fish? Like, not the one named after you, but like fish that you've bred because people believe that yours are pure strains and that type of stuff. So what are the channels in which they could fulfill that?
Well, one of them is go to one of the aquarium societies where I'm giving talks, because I've only limited space, so I can only grow so many fish. So I'll bring those to the aquarium societies and pre-sell them from time to time, or bring some like I'm bringing to the meeting tonight. I also sell from time to time on Aquabid, but I just don't have even time sometimes to do that. Mm-hmm. You can get some of those pure fish, though, that we've got at a local store, well, sort of local, with Wet Spot Aquariums. So make a trip down to Portland, and Steve's got some really cool fish that are coming in, and they're pure fish, which in the past, so many pet stores, you go, they're not so cool, but you're definitely getting cool fish there, so that's a good spot. And you guys have same fish too. So,
we buy from them, so yeah.
Yeah, the cool thing with the Wet Spot here, because we're so close to Portland, it's like they ship them out next morning, and they pretty much show up.
And it's cheap shipping for us.
Yeah.
But why not go to Portland and have a couple of good beers, and then you get some fish while you're there, right?
And the Voodoo Donuts.
Yeah.
I'm going to get some donuts instead.
Yeah.
I'll skip the beer, and I'll go straight for the donuts.
Straight to the donuts.
Did you see that donut I posted the other day?
Yes.
Yeah.
You should have looked through it, though. He posted it. Where'd you get a giant donut?
Legendary donuts.
I see.
It was like this big.
Yeah, we have strange donuts in St. Louis too.
Yeah.
So it's
people are like,
fun.
"Did you eat that whole thing?" I'm like, "Yeah, I ate the whole thing." What's wrong?
Before we get started here, I do have a complaint.
Okay.
I was coming in the door. Somebody grabbed me, took my shirt, and stuck this on me. And so we can't be dressed in the same outfit here.
I said
so.
you could only be on the show if you'd represent Aquarium Co-op.
Yeah, I got this shirt back in the aquatic experience in Chicago.
That's the only way you can get
so,
the red ones in person, because people ask me all the time. They're like, "How do I get a red shirt?" You have to meet me in person.
I got red shirted. Huh?
Yes, you got red shirted on
very
that
cool.
one.
Yeah. A lot of the T-shirts I have, I wear around the fish room, but I only wear this on special occasions.
Of course,
so,
right. Usually date night or anniversaries, those are the best uses.
Yeah, to a good fish club meeting. So, and I was thinking about this. I'm a Cardinal fan, so a baseball fan, and you guys have a first place team right now with Seattle Mariners. They're in first place. So forgot my Cardinal hat, unfortunately, but
Seattle
I could probably.
Mariners are shocking the nation right now.
Well, they keep on going.
Yeah.
But I could wear this to a baseball game and not get booed or something. To have all that red.
I think though, like with the Mariners, is that it's, as most like super baseball fan nerds know, it's a game of numbers, and it's been so long since they've even made it.
I was in high school still.
That I think that statistically they're just accidentally good this year. I don't want to get my hopes up because I get let down all the time.
That's what we said about Chicago too, and Boston. So your turn is coming. Yeah. Just wait and cross your fingers, squeeze your thumbs, and maybe you'll.
They let me down. They let me down every year. It's like if the Seahawks let me down, it's only 16 games. It's like some Sundays, and it's not that big of a deal. But man, if you get into baseball, it's a big commitment of time, and then by the end of the year, it's like, oh man, I could have picked up a new hobby by now, like basket weaving or something, and been more of a
Rainbowfish,
or another bad habit.
Yeah,
or more fish. Yeah, more.
What other talks are you giving that you know of, like this year or something like that? Are there other places where someone will be like, "Sweet, I'm in Texas. He's going to be there." Do you know of any that's coming up?
Oh, I will be in Indianapolis in August, so check the Indianapolis Circle City Aquarium Society. I'll be there. And I will be out in San Francisco Aquarium Society in November, and then I'll be in Sacramento. I'll be in San Francisco on Friday and Sacramento on Saturday. I don't have the dates exactly, but if you go to those sites, they'll tell you when their meetings are. It's on their same meeting nights.
Oh, so sweet.
I'll be in San Francisco this weekend.
Yeah. It's a cool place to go. So have fun, go out there, give a talk. Go down to the wharf, have some seafood, and, have some fun.
I won't be giving any talks. It's a lady trip.
Okay,
it's for my lady.
Okay, well, it's still a cool place to go to.
We'll be like, what are ladies?
Yeah.
I'm gonna sound like an idiot. We're going to Alcatraz. That's what we're doing.
Alcatraz.
Yeah.
It's a very cool place. So it's cold. Bring your jacket.
Oh,
even in August, it's cold.
No planned visits to Minnesota, someone says?
The Minnesota guys were talking about having me out there, and it's been about 3 years since I've been there, so maybe...
you should just do it with me. I'm doing it in September. You should just show up with me. We'll do a doubleheader.
Yeah. If it's only an hour or two away, I'd come listen to you speak, but...
No, we'll just fly you out.
It's about a 7-hour drive for me. So.
How about you give the talk, and I will act it out in interpretive dance?
Oh yeah, I think I'd pay to see that.
Yeah, see, now you're on
people
board.
actually pay not to see that probably.
Oh man! All right, so here we go. We got a super chat. So what happens here is someone donates some money to the show, and then their question gets highlighted.
Oh wow!
It says, "Hey Gary, I'm desperate to find some honey blue eyes. Please tell me you have some you could sell them." I've not even heard of the honey blue eye.
The honey blue eye is what he's speaking about is Sunmagil mellis, and that's one of the smaller ones. And the reason it's so rare, people go, "Oh, I want a blue eye, I want a blue eye." It's like, have you done all the others before you even think about doing the honey blue eyes? Because honey blue eyes are very difficult to keep. They don't throw a whole lot of eggs. A lot of times the eggs don't reach maturity. They end up dying. So you really have to be an expert to keep them. I'll keep them from time to time. I get a little frustrated and they go away on me, and I don't have them right now. There's people on the East Coast. You'll see them show up on Aquabid. Get your bankroll ready and pay for them there. But you can't just feed these things dry food. You're going to have to be thinking about live food. So certainly live baby brine shrimp is very minimum. Daphnia, if you got a live culture of Daphnia, you have to do that. If you have mosquito larvae that you can't get arrested for, so do it in your neighbor's yard, and then go over there and scoop the mosquito larvae out. That's the best.
Then you're
food to feed
helping
them.
the problem.
Well, it's the neighbor you don't like, doing in their backyard somewhere. But you really do need the live foods, chopped live blackworms. But you're not going to do it very well on prepared foods for sure, and freeze dry foods aren't going to handle it. and even frozen bloodworms. That's a little bit, that's at the bare minimum. So it's a tough fish to keep, and so that's why I say there's other fish out there that are really nice. Try the signifers; they're gonna be happy, and you can find those everywhere. The Gertrude are really a nice fish. So I think I'd say stay away from those unless you're really into. And you can do the blue eyes well, all those other ones.
All right. Next question from Aquarius Podcast, which, shameless plug, you did that last night, right?
Yeah, I was in the Aquarius podcast last night. I think it comes out next week, though.
And I'll be doing one Friday. So another podcast, kind of like what we're doing here. And so tune in for that. But his question is, what's the general difference between pseudomogills, Melotania, and what is it, glossolepis?
Yeah, glossolepis. You know what? I know it when I see it. That's the sort of a fun thing when you know a Melanotaenia versus a glossolepis. Most of those rainbow fish are big rainbow fish. Big rainbow fish between 3.5 inches and about 5 inches. They're big fish that throw small eggs. The pseudomogill all have blue eyes. That's the other thing. That's why we call them blue eyes. So that's an easy way to tell the difference. The pseudomogill, for the most part, are only between 3/4 of an inch and about 1.5 inches. There's some of the big signifers, and those big signifers are going to be renamed. They're going to have a different species name eventually once the Aussies get around to doing things correctly. Those things can be 2.5 inches, and that's why you see the signifers in the store here are only 1 inch long, and they'll never get any bigger than that. And those are going to be a different fish, but they all have blue eyes. Now the blue eyes also have a huge egg compared to the Melanotaenias. They have tiny eggs. The Melanotaenias will throw 30, 40, 50 eggs from a good pair in a day, whereas pseudomogill maybe will throw 2 or 3. Now, all of you that have pseudomogill and you see them spawning in your tank, put your ear up very close to the tank, and if you listen very carefully when you're spawning, you'll hear that female scream as she pulls that egg out because they're huge. You wonder how that big egg can come out of that little bitty female. So, yeah, I'm sure there's some of you out there that's going to put your ear up there.
I don't hear them. Yeah, I'm going to call you out on that. Going,
with those old timey the horn that you put in your.
Yeah, you got it. That's the key. Actually, is the
and take a picture and send it to Corey.
Yeah, and then we'll get it up here. And
but it is amazing when you see those huge eggs, how that big egg can come out of that little bitty fish. But they don't produce that many in a day. And also, you look at that egg and you look at the mouth on that fish, and you go. You'll see 10 eggs in the mop a day. You said, oh, okay, I'll wait 3 days. And 3 days later, you should have 30 eggs in there. Well, you still only have 10 eggs because that same little mouth fish goes around and eats the eggs. So even if you feed them quite well, often they'll come and eat the eggs.
So you got to pull them up every day?
So it's sort of like a killifish person. Yeah, pull them up every day, pick the eggs, and put it back in there. So,
So I have a question talking about those differences. Are there other rainbows that are similar to like the threadfin or the Werneri rainbow? Because I feel like that's the iconic one, and then I don't, like on posters and stuff, I'm not seeing other variants. Are there any others that have been found?
Any variants of Werneri?
Or at least
the feather
like
fins?
Yeah, more feather fins that are like that, yeah.
We in the past, people have looked at rainbow fish from Australia and said, these are all trifasciata. Now people are, red, blues, greens, yellows, and some are thin and some are thick. And people are looking at those now and going, you know what? I think there's going to be different species there. The signifers already, little fish, big fish, they did the fin counts. Now DNA is saying, hey, those are different species. So you need to do this. This is actually happening with the Gertrude, different species. Some of the rainbow fish that we found in New Guinea said, these are all Maccullochi. Like, no, when you start doing the DNA work, they're going to be different. So I look at some of these Werneri that some are from New Guinea and some are from Australia, and I look at those and I think, you know what, somebody needs to do a little bit more work. Maybe we're going to find some species that are different. Yeah. And you have to look a little bit more carefully, I think. So right now I can't say that yes, there's something definitely there, but there might be something.
So with those Gertrudes, that they now know they're different species, or they highly suspect?
Well, the DNA from the species in Australia is definitely different than the original species that was described from Aru Island. So the Aru 2 is probably generic, the original described Gertrudia.
And so will they get a new scientific name, or are we just going to keep going RO2, RO3, RO4?
Well, no, those will be RO2 from the Aru Islands, and that's going to be the Gertrudia. The ones from Australia, that's why you always remember, where the river came from, because those are probably all going to be something different. The DNA is definitely different. They just have to get back around to finally naming those. Whether it's going to be Pagai, because there was another rainbow fish in New Guinea that was named Pagai.
Yeah, the neon red one, right?
No, that neon red one was always incorrectly named.
Oh.
That's Luminatus.
Right.
The neon red one is Luminatus.
But it did get called Pagai.
It was incorrectly called Pagai, but there is a Pagai rainbow, and it's not in the hobby right now. So anybody that says they've got Pagai, it's incorrect. So they've got Luminatus, or they have some sort of.
We got to schedule a collecting flight.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, that's what I was going to do. I was going to try and bum my way onto the next.
We have to go to Papua New Guinea, and I haven't been to Papua New Guinea. I've been to Papua, so maybe we can get Hans or somebody else to go over there and collect that fish for us.
Yeah.
It would be much easier if somebody else went and did it.
Oh yeah, it's a lot easier. Mosquitoes, leeches, guys with big guns. That's in Papua New Guinea. From what I've heard, it's a little lawless on that side. There's these little things in the water that you have to worry about called crocodiles too. So
it's a minor.
I'll play spotter. I'll spot the crocodiles, and I'll take equal part credit. Like, I was there when we found this. I didn't get in the water, but I was there.
I can see Corey now. He's going, I was there when Gary got it.
Yep. How do you think I'm getting famous? How do you think I'm getting to 200,000 subscribers? The video of you getting attacked by a crocodile.
Cry me.
Don't worry, I'll spot them and then set the camera on it when I spot it. Yeah.
You gotta have the good telephoto, so you're like a good distance away.
I'll be in the Jeep still.
Well,
Yeah,
you've seen those pictures before where the group of people go out, the tourists go out, and the guy holds the chicken 8 foot out of the water, and the croc comes flying out of the water and grabs the chicken, and they go, well, yeah, I want to be about another 2 foot away from that. So that's a long distance. So yeah, you go with natives that know what's going on, and they say, hey, that's really muddy water over there, and crocs are in that water, and they're salties, so you don't want to go there. And you say,
what? I
don't want those fish.
You go with the natives, you step where they step. You don't. You just kind of follow them and let them show you.
That works most of the times. Sometimes you will be walking over these floating reeds or something like this, and the natives are much shorter and much smaller, and they're not near as fat as I am. And so sometimes they step there, and I step there, and I go through the water, and I'm up to my in water, and then having to grab the sawgrass to pull myself back up, and it's like, are we having fun yet?
Do they stand and laugh at you, or is this?
They do. So it's fun, But
is this the fun part?
Yeah. Are we having fun yet?
Are we having fun yet?
Yeah.
It's 5% fish catching. It's 95% getting there, waiting, asking the chief at the village for permission, because it's, if you saw somebody out in your backstream, fishing on your property, you might shoot them or throw a machete or something at them. So you ask, and you get, almost all the time we get permission. Just once have we been denied. So
I was going to say, what's the hairiest situation? Like, whether it's tribe or not, just like someone broke their leg, or what's the craziest thing that's happened out collecting?
Yeah,
4,000 leeches.
Yeah, leeches are fun. For us in the United States, leeches are a water product, right? You get, in the right areas or in the wrong areas, you get in the water and you're sitting there long enough, the leech will get on you. And if it gets in your bathing suit, fun with that. But, and they get on you and you realize they're there. But
the ones that drop out of the trees are the ones that freak me out.
Those are the ones that freak me out, because the one day I won the leech catching contest. I got 38 leeches in one, in about a 2-hour setting. So we were catching these in this little dirty creek, and we had some nice rainbow fish, and I was doing the field work, put them in the little cuvette, taking pictures, kneeling in the mud, taking pictures. Well, these guys like smell CO2. All of a sudden they're on me, You don't realize it because the first thing they do when they get on you, they inject a little bit of painkiller so you don't feel the bite, and then they put then they put in an anticoagulant, and then they start sucking, and all of a sudden you realize, oh, there's a leech on me. You grab that leech and pull it off, and then you just sit there and bleed like a stuck pig for the next 15 minutes.
I
So
hadn't
it's
thought
just
about that part.
coming down your leg and everything. So,
But it doesn't hurt.
yeah, it doesn't hurt, but
Yeah.
it just biochemically, as a biochemist, I'm going, oh, that's hindering in there. That's really kind of cool.
Yeah.
But the thing that really gets me is when they're falling out of the trees in the bush. It's like, oh my goodness. I'm with glasses, and I can see okay without my glasses, but I probably couldn't drive. I certainly couldn't read. And they're sweating, and you're going, oh, you stupid guy, you got glasses, and you're sweating, all this jazz. And we're walking out of this place where I'd collected 38 leeches that day, and the natives that were with us, all of a sudden the one guy behind us started screaming and yelling, and going, ah! And I'm going, Dan, what? He's saying stuff in Indonesian. Dan, what's going on? I said, oh, a leech just landed on his eyeball, and the other guy pulled it off. And I'm going, I'm always thinking about my stinking glasses, and I'm going, oh, safety glasses. So I don't complain about my glasses. I just wipe them off. And
Those are the things you never think about.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, there's
Yeah.
one time there was a leech in my eye.
Yeah.
That jumped out of a tree.
When I was
That's-
80 miles from
that's-
a hospital.
that might be
or
the
more.
thing.
Well, you
It might
grab
be
it
the
quick
thing that
enough,
you're
and they don't bite. You get them off of there. So
That might be the
yeah.
thing that you're missing.
Yeah.
They come out of the trees. They're leeches from the sky.
Yeah, leeches from the sky. It's like raining fishes.
Don't
it's
look
raining
up.
leeches.
Yeah.
For sure. And I was telling our ichthyologist guide Henny about that the other day, and she said, yeah, that happened to me too.
Yeah.
And again, she got it off there before it happened.
Wow.
So those are like, yeah, I'm gonna wear my safety glasses and be thankful.
I have a
and-
new
and-
item maybe on the Peru list of like.
I don't know what they do that in Peru or not. If
I'm
they
just
have
thinking.
leeches
I hadn't
from
thought
the-
about
from the
stuff hitting
trees,
my
but-
eyes.
Yeah.
There's probably something else coming at my eyes in Peru.
Yeah.
You could
Yes.
get some cool goggles.
Yeah.
like
know.
just the standard like science class ones. They're like with the little danglies. Yeah.
Yeah, with lights on them and everything that flash at night.
Now we're talking.
I don't know. Do they have vampire bats there? I know they're down there in South America somewhere.
I'm
so-
convinced they'll have everything I'll be terrified of once I get there. Be like, watch out for this and this and this. So we'll see.
Yeah.
All
It's
right.
fun.
I've got a question from early on. What is the egg yield between different species like? So, like, are bigger rainbows always going to have more? Are there ones, any that are like, that's a big rainbow, but it still only has 2 eggs? This is from Bentley Pasco. You may have met him last night.
Yeah,
don't
I
know.
met
Okay, yeah.
Bentley
Then,
yesterday.
this question's from Bentley.
Quite a rainbow fish
Yeah.
aficionado. So, for the most part, in some ways, I think it differs almost from rainbow fish to rainbow fish, not species-wise, but this Gorda River rainbow versus that Gorda River rainbow fish. How well have you fed them? Most of the big rainbow fish produce a lot of eggs. The Glossolepis produces the smallest eggs, so they really can produce a lot of eggs, maybe 50, 60, 70, depending on, you can do like Tetra people do where they separate the males and females for a week, put them together, and you'll have lots and lots of eggs. Also, by having them separated, though, sometimes the fish get so aggressive because they haven't been without their lady friend for a week. I just prefer to keep them in a tank and let them breed every morning, and
Right.
you'll get 30, 40 eggs. It takes about 10 days for a rainbow fish egg to hatch, so leave the mop in there for 10 days, and he doesn't go, oh my goodness, I haven't had my lady friend for the last 10 days, and sometimes he gets pushing her so hard, you can get a lot of eggs at one time. But anyway, pretty much big rainbow fish have a lot of eggs. The small rainbow fish like the Tuna McGill have fewer eggs. There's just only so much room in there.
And I would assume, for most people watching, that the smaller eggs need smaller food, and the larger eggs can maybe take brine right away?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's kind of the neat thing. If you can get by with, if you understand doing the live foods for most of the Tuna McGills, they produce a live egg and they eat live baby brine right off the bat. And that's a cool thing. So.
Nice. So, have you taken all the pictures on here? Is this all of you?
Yep, every single one of those are my picture. Actually, there probably is one or two that are Johannes's.
I can show you
but,
guys a bit.
Yeah.
Do we have? Is there a digital copy or anything on one of the websites or anything like that?
Oh, there probably was one on the air. I think I put one on Airstone about a month
okay.
ago. So I forgot. I should have done that for Jimmy. and did that ahead of time. But that's just we have fun with that, brag a little bit about that because a lot of those fish hadn't been in the hobby before, so it was kind of cool. And some people go, "Ooh, that fish is Rewara Village. It's not named yet." But for me, even whether it's collecting killifish or anything else, the unnamed fish is kind of more cool to get than even the fish with the name. But
the Pagai Village. These are the ones I was reading about, like probably a week ago.
Yeah, and I would say, I've argued with my German friends because they say, no, those are Gertrude, but the DNA is the same as the Aru2, but the meristics, the fin count, all the things that the original ichthyologists, fish nerds used to do, fin counts and everything are different. That first anal ray is extended, super extended on the Gertrude Aru2, where this one isn't. So here we have two fish that are same DNA but different meristics, and that happens a lot, fairly often in rainbow fish. Glossolepis incisus, Glossolepis pseudoincisus, and Glossolepis dorothei. When you look at the generic DNA, when they look at that, it all looks alike, but you can do the meristics on those fish and say, they're definitely different.
They're definitely different.
So sometimes things will, the DNA set that they're looking at, they look alike, but the meristics are different. Other things, originally, some of these fish, the meristics kind of, the scale counts looked alike, but then to say these DNA are very different, and what you have to do is just go back, and all of a sudden, if you look hard enough, then you'll start finding these traits that you missed the first time around. So,
right. So, and it could just be, well, I think from what most of the arguments that I've seen is that, like they'll pull up the DNA and they'll be like, these are the same DNA, but then it's kind of like, well, I mean, if we look at the evolution of DNA, there's probably some markers that are being missed at this point. And then I'm sure, 20 years from now, it'll be like, well, see, look, now they're completely different. But
well, let's just go outside and look at cars. Okay,
Right.
we see, and pretend each thing is a piece of DNA that we're looking at. We've got a tire here. Okay, this car over here has a tire too. Oh, they're the same DNA. No, they're not. Well, this one here has a really cool body on it, and we open the hood, and now one's a Porsche engine, and the other's a Ferrari engine, and the other's a Volkswagen engine, and we know those are different. So it depends on how many DNA sites the loci that they look at.
Yeah.
I'm a protein guy. I'm not a DNA guy. I can spell DNA, but I follow the experts, and that's what they tell me is that they want to look at more than one site, and that's when you start. The more you look at, the more accurate your data gets. Just like anything else in life. If you just look at the tires, they all look like the same car to you. So
true enough. Question from the chat. How do the collecting trips work, and do average Joes ever get to go?
No.
What's the deal? What was the question?
The question is, how do the collecting trips work, and do the average Joes ever get to go?
Yeah.
What happened for me is in 2003 and 4, Dan Doherty, a missionary who's over in Indonesia, in Papua, had relatives in Kansas. He was on a sabbatical, and he was trying to recruit pilots while he was in St. Louis. He knew that I had the Glossolepis Doherty, the rainbow that's named for him, and he said, "Hey, can I come by and see your fish room? And I want to show some of my guys that I'm recruiting for pilots what rainbow fish look like, and kind of chat them up and everything." He said, "Oh, Dan Doherty, that's cool. Come on by."
Yeah.
And showed him the fish room. We got to be fairly good friends. He came through about a year later with his oldest kid, looking for shopping for colleges and everything, and then about a month later emailed and said, "Hey, I got some time in June. Would you like to go to Papua?" And I'd always dream when I see Heiko Blair and these other people going to collecting rainbow fish. It's like, you can only dream of that sort of stuff. And I said, "Oh yeah." And so got permission from the boss. She took out $1 million policy on me and said, "Go for it, big boy." But that's how I got to go on. And so it really was a one-on-one person. A few years later, I went to Germany, and I gave a talk in Germany and got to be really good friends with Johannes Graf. And the Germans just sort of really really are serious about their fish. They really get into it, study it, and everything. And Johannes was very serious about it. And as I liked him, and I said, "Man, this guy's great. You ought to go. You ought to go to New Guinea with us." And Dan Doherty was in Europe shortly after that, visiting his sister, and he visited Johannes, convinced Johannes's wife that he wouldn't lose him in the jungle, and so he's been on every trip since then. Now, since that time, Dan is not in the missionary business anymore, or at least in New Guinea. So he's back in the he's back in Australia now, but we've gone with other people. But it's just not it's not a tourist sort of thing that's set up. We only take 1 or 2 people with us, and it's
there's like
nothing
a wait
you could
list to
there's
get on
nothing
that?
there's nothing there's really no planning that you could do for that. The last time we took the best Pseudomagil expert in the world, Wim Himkerks from the Netherlands, with us, because he really knew a lot of stuff about it, and when we were searching for Pseudomagil those last trips. So it's just a small group. It's not like it would be great to take 10 or 12 people over there. If they'd make it touristy over there, it'd be great to go over there.
Like a business is like, we're gonna do 20 trips a year. Yeah.
Well, like the Peru Adventures, that would be great if we could do something like that. But unfortunately, it's just not going to work out. So.
Is it like a danger thing, you think, or just like not enough Rainbowfish people to make that trip work? Or
there's danger thing. There's suspicion of outsiders, and the whole.
Oh yeah.
There's a whole thing going on there. So we just want to, not be too.
Yeah, you don't want to bring 1 million people in. They shut it down for everyone right now. It's working okay. And okay. Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Another question someone had. What are your tips? Because I happen to know you've given talks on this. What are your tips for photographing fish?
First of all, if you're trying to use cell phone, throw it away. Doesn't work for fish, and unless you kill the fish, put it in your hand and take a picture. That works pretty good. But other than that, you get a decent 35 millimeter camera. I used to say never do autofocus at all. Now, since the Canon 70D and models that are beyond that, they autofocus quite well. Get yourself a decent lens. A macro lens works the best, but they're 35 to 115 for the Canon. It works pretty good on autofocus. And then an off-camera flash, because you don't want the flash to be on the camera. They're big flashes. The flashes start at $400. The cameras are $1,200, $1,300, $1,400. The off-channel stuff is a couple $100, so that you can take that camera off tilt. You slightly tilt the camera down at an angle you don't want to be perpendicular to the glass. Tilt it slightly, and also clean the aquarium, clean it well, clean the glass. Get on your knees and pray to whoever. But what you're actually on your knees for is to look up at the glass to make sure that you got all those little smudges off. So if you hold the camera here, you're tilting it slightly like that, so slightly downwards, and then hold the flash in your left hand up here, slightly downwards. So the idea is that light from the flash will hit the fish, bounce off at you, because you don't want it to bounce straight back into the camera, because all you'll get is that big old flash. But it comes down, the light that hits the fish comes back and then goes into your camera, and that's the starting way. Now, when you really get good about it, then you take one flash here and you take another flash here that's slave to the other flash, and maybe one even on top. This one here might be your main flash, and those other two will only be at 20, 30, 40%. The best fish photographer I know in the world, Schmida, does it that. Going through Schmida does it that way. So if you go to Angfa and you look at some of the Angfa pictures there, you'll see some of the Schmida pictures, and they're the best in the world. I look at his stuff and go, I am not worthy, because they're just fantastic pictures from.
I think we can line up some of those pictures, right, Jimmy?
Well, I did not join Angfa.
Oh, so we might not be able to see them if we have not joined.
We're going to go to join Angfa.
Yeah.
That's a good lead-in for doing something fun with Angfa. We had a Rainbowfish group in the United States for many years, and Angfa has been in Australia for quite a few years. They used to have a paper publication that they would put out. It was about 16 pages, and you'd get it 3 or maybe 4 times a year for like about $60 or $70. Now they've gone digital, and we now also have a local chapter, so it's called Angfa North America. And if that pops up for people, that's $30 Australian, which is like about, I don't know, about $26 American money. You go on there, pay it in PayPal, make sure you put it in the U.S. dollars, and you'll get the ANCFA, the digital copy. And then as we're going to be starting to put some newsletters out that'll have a little bit of information. And it's also going to have a fish and egg on there, so ANCFA North America members can put something on there, and that way maybe you can get some of the new stuff.
Nice.
And the other thing that while we're talking about ANCFA, some people they like the digital stuff. It's okay, and they like the price for sure, but they also want to have a hard copy. And this here is a hard copy. This was from 2016, and that one is from 2017. So instead of only having 16 pages a year, now, or 16 pages every quarter, they've got 36, 40 pages a year. This is like, I don't know, 140 pages or something like this. So they've got a lot more pictures, a lot more color, but they decided they would do a hard copy. So these guys, once you're a member, you can also pre-order these at the beginning of the year and get the magazine for, oh yeah, there's that Gary Lange fish. Yeah, you flipped right to that. Yeah, I put a tab on that, but you can get these for $50 Australian, which is like is exactly right now $40 US. So it's not that much to get the hard copy, and they're putting.
I feel like that's a pretty good deal, because this is
it's
like
a great content.
This is almost like buying what am I trying to think of? Like a
book.
Well, yeah, essentially it is like just straight up a book.
This is like Biochemistry Journal or something like this. It would come out monthly, but yeah, I mean, this is their whole yearly product. But people are really getting excited about it. They've got a great editor over there. And if you decide to go to the website and join ANCFA North America, I'm sure I'm almost positive there's a comment area there. Please make sure you say that, hey, I heard about it from Corey's Co-op. So that way we'll know. And
you can track it.
Yeah, and that way we can track it. And then people will say, hey, look, all these people were watching this, and then I can make sure that ANCFA knows that.
That's right. And then they'll chip in $6. We'll get you back on the show.
The thing I like about these is that they have the educational side of it, and then they have the magazine side of it, because you have some real glossy shots and stuff like that.
And it doesn't look like there's any advertisements or anything.
Yeah, no advertisements. Yeah, it's straight.
Educational parts of it that you can actually identify some things and actually walk you through stuff, and it has the storytelling in it too. It has all three of the things that you want when you're going through.
These are,
and if you're
seeing them in
reading
person.
something, it's hard to read science.
I mean, I definitely could put this on the back of the toilet.
It gets tiring.
Yeah, I could.
Hey, no, those are the magazines. That's like the Seinfeld episode. You take that book into the toilet, you own it.
Right. Well, I'm just saying, that's where I do my best reading.
Yeah.
You know.
Not me.
But it's certainly worthwhile, and the reason I'm reaching out to all you Americans out there, there's actually more Canadians right now in the ANCFA North America, so I'd like to change that. So go to the website, join up. $30
Population-wise,
Australian,
that's insane.
and yeah,
That's crazy.
Well, they've gotten pretty fanatical about it lately, and they've gotten excited. And then we just have started this in the last couple of months, and we're just starting to talk about it. So this is a good place to start.
Was ANCFA the one that raised money for one of the rainbows?
Yes, they raised money for the running Rainbowfish project.
Yeah.
Because what happened with there is a rainbowfish that's an unknown species. There's actually still unknown species in Australia that some people originally said, it kind of looks like Splendida or something, and they go, no, it's not. And it's an unknown fish. They used to call it the Upper Burdekin River. The running river is where this fish was. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden they started noticing that there were some Splendidas coming in there. Well, Splendida, it's another rainbow fish. Somebody put some fish in a fish farm pond above stream. It got flooded, went down into this area where these fish were, and all of a sudden they're getting crossed with these guys. The guys found it soon enough, so they went and said, well, you know what, you can't, all these females look alike. So Peter Unmack had to do all this DNA. He'd clip a fin from the female, put them in a tank, do the DNA work on it, and say, okay, this female's pure, this female's a cross. This, it was that close that they were close enough. They didn't want to make a mistake. The males were pretty easy to tell, but they still screened those also. Got those, and they said, okay, we've got 40, 50, I forgot how many fish it was that they did. And this was their breeding project. They took it back to the lab because they were going to breed these, and the idea was they already knew where they were going to take them. There's several waterfalls on this section that there normally weren't any rainbow fish above those waterfalls, and they looked and there weren't any other fish that if they moved these fish up there they weren't going to displace. So they bred them in the lab. They got thousands of them. So you think about us breeding a lot of fish in the aquarium. They really did a lot in the lab. Took them out to the field and then released them up there. And then several months later, they came back and look at them. Up there, and there's also baby fish there.
Nice.
So they're gonna go back in the same place where if they fall over the falls, they're not going to displace anybody else because that's where they originally were. But that way, now they've got a spot. Unless somebody takes Splendidas and brings them up above the falls,
Right.
they're not
They've
going
got
to
like
have
a little
problem.
sanctuary.
Yeah. And it's in an area that people can't easily get to, so they'll be safe there. And they've got a second rainbow they're working on right now. Is the Lange rainbow, and you go to the Seattle Aquarium Society meeting, both of those will have eggs for those available. So that'll be kind of a neat thing. And the Lange is going to be really good for the nano tanks, I think, because they only get about 1.5 inches, so maybe a little bit bigger. So it's kind of a cool little fish too. So. But you can read about it in ANGFA, so if you become an ANGFA member, I think they actually have all the back issues on stock too. So if you become an ANGFA member, you can go back and read the stuff.
Is there 31 volumes or 32 volumes or whatever? Like that'd be quite the thing to have like on a shelf.
Yeah.
Well,
these are the only two big ones. Everything else was all of these small things.
Oh.
And they had done a CD a while ago, and I don't even think they're doing the CD. Eventually, they'll get back to doing that because I always lose the little pamphlets. They're someplace in the house, and I got to find them to look at the article. So it was so nice to have the CD. If I didn't lose that way, I could find it and look up information.
So someone's asking if it's INGFA or ANGFA. It's ANGFA. You can watch the replay and look at the exact website. Make sure you match it up, that type of thing.
ANGFA, Australian New Guinea Fishes Association. But
all right.
Yeah, it's definitely worth your while.
So I've got a question that no one I've seen ask yet is, where, besides this podcast, obviously, where would people go to be learning about rainbow fish?
Oh, we can go to Rainbowfish Live. It's a forum, or it's a Facebook page.
Okay.
And then I forgot what the forum is called. Stupid me! I'm supposed to have this stuff ahead of time. But if you go to the Facebook page, you'll see that there's you'll see hits for the forum on there. Also, what we've done a lot of times when people ask the same question, that's loaded onto the forum page. So that way, those
like an FAQ or something.
Yeah,
like
right.
That, yeah.
And so that way you can find different.
So
there it is, right
Facebook
there. There's
group.
a Facebook forum, and that first picture is one of those nice Blythe River rainbow fish, which will be for auction. Eggs will be for auction. So
yeah. All right. So this is a question. Maybe it's for the non-rainbow fish people. What's your favorite non-rainbow fish?
My favorite non-rainbow fish. It could be the Lamprichthys tanganecthes, which looks like a rainbow fish.
Yeah, the killie, yeah.
But then we'll go in the other direction and say, my first love before I fell in love with rainbow fish, my love in grade school. No, her name was Corydoras. So Ian Fuller, the famous Corydoras fellow that, goes down to Peru these days all the time. I love Corydoras, and they were fantastic fish. I was the first person in my aquarium club, Missouri Aquarium Society, to actually breed 5 Corys. So we got a little plaque for doing that, and that was kind of fun. And then I started falling in love with those beautiful rainbow fish. And rainbow fish and Corydoras in the same tank, if you're trying to breed the rainbow fish, are incompatible. And the Corydoras will go through and clean that mop if you're having those in the eggs. They're fastidious. They'll get every single egg. You keep looking in there and go, I know I should have rainbow fish eggs in here, and they're all gone. So the Corydoras do a good job, and the rainbow fish return the favor to the Corys. So if they happen to breed on the glass or something, they're going to be all gone. So I started getting rid of my rainbow fish, or my Corydoras, and now we have one of the best breeders of Corydoras in the world in St. Louis, Jerry Jose. You've seen his place. He's got, 300 tanks of Corys. He breeds just about every single Cory. I get mad when I go to my Maasai auctions and he's got 8 Weitzmanni or something. I think that's how I got Weitzmanni the other day. They're like $15, $20, and I go, jerks, 40. And I take them home, and I have to put them in my community tank. I can't put them in a breeder's tank because they clean the mops, but I get to enjoy all the cool Corys that way, and still for a really pretty cheap price. I think so.
Yeah, we've got some of his fish here, in fact, still.
Yeah, He's a pretty cool breeder, and all those. I'm going to the catfish conference, and I'm probably taking Jerry's fish with me out in Washington D.C. We just have to figure out how to get them shipped out.
Do you
there.
bring any? Would you bring any like Rainbowfish eggs or anything?
Yeah,
to
I'm going
that
to be.
too?
I'm planning to bring
that's
some.
another
Rainbowfish,
option.
so,
Go to the
yeah.
catfish. Is September? Is that when it is?
October.
October.
You know, it's cool to go to parties, you know, and catfish parties are cool, and all you cichlid people that are out there, the ACA convention, it's kind of on a bad weekend this time. It's July 4th, but it's a cool party. There's a lot of cool people in the Houston area that show up to that. So
Are you going to the ACA?
I'm not going to the ACA this year. I just can't do the July 4th thing. But
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
same.
the date's
Yeah,
really the
yeah,
issue. It's like,
yeah.
that's kind of a reserved family weekend. It'd be
Yeah.
like, let's have our fish convention on Thanksgiving. Like,
Well,
Yeah.
you know, Memorial Day weekend has been reserved for the AKA, the American Killifish Association, for years and years and years, and they've just get all their husband points doing something else, so that way they can go to the convention on that day. So you know, you just have to work around it. But yes, I get that it's a problem having it on holidays, but you know, you do what you have to do to get there.
Can we check out
Yeah.
the super chat that came in earlier, Jimmy?
I was just basically saying that's the reason I'm not going. It's like I
Yeah.
can't tell my whole family, like, nah, not going to that thing.
I could. They just won't like me very much.
Well, yeah, I mean, I
Well, wait
could,
until
yeah.
next year. It's going to be on the East Coast, so you can go then.
There we
I
go.
almost went to it last year. Jay Wilson almost convinced me to go last year.
Yeah.
It was on a better date last year. It wasn't the
Where
4th
was
of
it?
July. It was some Texas or something. I forget.
I don't know.
Oklahoma. I don't know.
All
It
right.
was somewhere in the middle.
Super chat. I saw Melotania picta in your fish room tour. Is that a fish that you collected, or is it commonly found in the hobby? He can't find any.
Melanotaenia picta. That was formerly known as Melanotaenia species Aru2. Now, one of the places I would love to go collecting and just poke around are the Aru Islands. Heiko Blair found that fish. Oh, I guess it's been 10 years ago now. He found the Aru2, and he also found the Aru4. The Aru4 is a different. It has Goldii DNA, and the Aru2 actually has trifasciata DNA. It is not a trifasciata, but you can see when you're looking at the DNA, at least that's what the DNA experts tell me, that it's related to it. When you look at the fish itself, if somebody didn't tell you it was from there, you'd say, that's a trifasciata. But they're just a wonderful fish. You can, if you look hard enough, you can find them, because there are people that have them. They show up on Aquabid. I'm thinking as Ankfa North America, that's going to be something that's going to also show up. There's a picture of Aru2. So, and that really seems to be kind of a hotbed for rainbow fish. If you don't have Amazonas magazine, shame on you. But you see, that's several series of islands there, because I think it was in Amazonas where they went to the Aru Islands several years ago. I think Heiko wrote that article, and Jerry Allen, for their second trip back. Because second trip back, they couldn't find the Aru4 again, and they were having difficulties there. That island, they were about ready to take that thing and raise it and make a sugarcane field out of it. Oof. So, which is something they're doing in Indonesia with the palm oil plantations everywhere.
So yeah, I knew about the palm oil.
Yeah, I think the natives got so upset about that they got them to back off on that. The second trip that I was there, I think I read it in the Amazonas, but it may have just been word of mouth. They were trying to get the spot to look, because there's several pseudomygil types that Heiko had found the one time, and Jerry wanted to go back find those, and the natives were so upset about this they weren't even letting people into some of those areas. So,
Right.
That's why you get people mad, and it causes problems. But
Yeah, that's kind of the issue. You try to tell people, like, oh, we're just going to collect fish, and they're like, are you sure? Because the last time some white guys showed up from America, that whole mountain got knocked down, that kind of stuff.
It pays for us to be going with an actual Papuan ichthyologist,
Right.
and she asked politely for
How many
us.
of those are there?
Well, there's not too many of them.
Yeah.
There's some Indonesians out there that are good ichthyologists, and Henny is into that sort of thing, and politely asked for us, and we're putting, as we're writing these papers, she's getting in there also, so because
Nice.
that's part of her research
Yeah.
to do this. these sorts of things. Maybe people, if people are aware of this stuff, maybe they won't be so quick to put in all the palm oil plantations, and it would be nice for that to be a vacation hotspot someday. But right now it's just not possible.
So Jeff Rose with the super chat. Welcome to the Real Fish Talk, Gary. Thanks for coming. What's your opinion on the best beginner rainbow fish? Hardy, accepts numerous water parameters, etc.
Boy, favorite fish, easiest fish. If you're already got a fish versus trying to raise it from eggs, I guess the best choice for me would be Melanotania bozemanni, or Busman. The man's name is Busman, so it really should be Busmani. But a beautiful orange. It's like God took two fish, cut them apart, and stuck them together. Front half is orange, and back half is.
I'm glad I got something right in my head.
Blue. It's just it's really cool it's really cool the way that fish is. And now some of them have been in the hobby are not that pretty.
Right.
But we got fish from Lake Uter and Jamro Village and Tinjo Village. Those fish are intensely orange and intensely blue-black. They're just so incredible, and we've now gotten those down to the Florida fish farmers. Those are also coming through Wet Spot if they're coming through his Indonesian connection there. He's got some really bright orange fish, and so those dull yellow fish and some of the crosses that people had made in the past are being phased out. These fish aren't quite as large. They're not 5 inches anymore. They're more like 2.5, 3 inches. So it's working better for our smaller tanks now. But you have 8 or 9 or 10 of those in a tank, a 75-gallon tank. Heck, you could even fit 15 or 20 of those in a 75.
Yeah.
You've got yourself an awesome school of fish. So that's the easiest one. Some of the trifasciatas that are out there, the red ones and the yellow ones, they're very pretty. Goiter River, you'll start hearing some. These fish are going to be coming into the United States very soon. Blythe River, it's a bright red rainbow fish. When we showed that Facebook page the other day, or just a second ago, that was the fish that was at the top of that Facebook page. So brilliant red. That's not fake stuff. They really look that way. That's not photoshopped.
And is that them like in the are they flaring at that point to get that much color?
They were flaring, and they show that color all the time. My Goiter Rivers, when people look at those tanks, hey, go back and look at those pictures that you took in my shop and whatever volume YouTube that was. They're that red. It's not fake. It's kind of, I guess you could fake it on video, but it's kind of hard to. It's a lot harder to do. But
someone was asking, how can you make the rainbow fish flare for taking pictures? You got any tips to get them in the mood for the filming that day or the?
They like Brahms, and they like what? Oh,
which overture?
Which overture? The best way to get your fish into shape is one, feed them well. It's not always just flake food and pellet food. Feed them those good frozen bloodworms. If you got live blackworms, feed them stuff like that. Feed them real good. Then do what I call a quality water change. I only do quality water changes. That's a 50 or a 60% water change. If you haven't done a water change for a really long time, do a whole bunch of 20% water changes daily for a while until you get to 50% water change. Your fish, if you look down on the water, he'll come up and kiss you right on the lips for doing those water changes. They'll tell you because you do the water change, you pour the water back in, and those fish are flaring back and forth and they're swimming around. You put a nice clump of Java moss in there if you want to get them right to flare right in front of you. Put them right in the front. They'll go into that Java moss. It makes for a much prettier picture than a mop anyway, but they'll flare for you. Don't forget to clean the glass if you're taking pictures. And that's the thing you forget about sometimes. They go, they're doing their thing. I want to take a picture.
I love how many times I get the question how do your tanks look so nice? I get that all the time. I clean them. And they're like, how?
Yeah.
I'm like, with my hands.
It's usually me asking you.
Well,
You clean them? What?
I don't use carbon on my tank. I've just got sponge filters. But when I'm getting ready to take a photography work, I will do that 50-60% water change, maybe even more. Fill it up with nice clean water, and then put a hang on the back filter on there that has carbon in there because that'll really do a good polish. You don't need a diatom to do that, but that'll really polish it up. And it's that clear water versus that yellow water. It makes for such a better picture. So, and big flash, that always helps.
Well, we've got Lucas Brett's in the house. You've met him. He stayed at your house, I believe. He wants to know if you can stow away in your suitcase on the next trip and your top 5 rainbow fish of all time.
No room in the suitcase, man. That's for other
Reserved
stuff
for
and
fish?
nets and all the other stuff. Well, on the way back, yeah, I could just leave him there because it wouldn't be reserved for fish.
Lucas is too tall.
Yeah.
Maybe a shorter.
Yeah, we have to chop him up to fit in there. I don't
Yeah.
think they work that way. You can't put the pieces back together once you're there. That'd be
He'd
really.
get you there. You just might not know it.
And we tried that once, and then they started making
Yeah.
movies about it. And
Yeah.
So top 5 rainbows. You got like ones. Let's say you were slowing down. It's in 30 years, and you're like, oh man, I can only keep 5 tanks of rainbows. Which ones make the cut?
Oh, that's like Sophie's choice, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Which one do I choose, but which 5 do I choose?
Yeah. Or if you know one like right away, would never get rid of this one. Got to keep that.
Okay. One that I would never get rid of is now that I've got some fantastic Bozeman eye, probably the Bozeman eye from Lake Ooter, I'd probably never get rid of. I really, really like that fish. My Wapoga red laser, which looks like a praecox with stripes, but is a different
Right.
species, Melanotania rubivitata, is just such a fantastic fish. That would be very, very difficult to get rid of.
Would you keep your namesake?
See, that's sort of the Sophie's choice. I really, really like that fish, and it really looks cool. So it could certainly be in the contender. Do I have to, if I did a top 10, it would absolutely be in there. So would the Chillerthina from the Upper Tor River, because that's a beautiful, bright fish. Hyco. Chillerthina blairii is the party rainbow fish, because when they get big, when they get 4 and 5 inches, I've got videos of those guys just dancing around. They just get incredible, and they like the more light you put on them, the hotter they get. And when the lights first come on for the first 2 or 3 hours, some rainbow fish get all excited. Blairii just kind of sit around and go, I'll wait until I have my coffee. But in the afternoon, people come over to the fish room, and everything else, sort of colors are turning off, and Heiko's fish is just going crazy. It's like, wow, they're turning on. People go, my goodness, I don't know how, because they're only looking at them at an inch and a half or 2 inches in the store. When they get 4 and 5 inches and they get that funky, bumpy nose, that would have to be one that would have to be in there. My red-eyed dragon, Glossolepis multisquamata, that we brought back. That is just a really incredible fish. We brought that back from Pagai, and the Germans call it the Pagai Mud Hole, because literally, when we were fishing, we caught praecox in one spot, the Glossolepis in another, and the fasciata in a third spot, all within 150 yards, each in their own micro niche. But this mud, we were standing in the mud, literally up to our knees in the mud, a little bit deeper, holding the seine, and then have the young boys run toward the net, pull the net up, 1, 2, 3 fish, scoop them with the net, put them in the bucket, put the net down again, and have them run back.
Are they like covered in mud at that point when you're sorting through them?
No, we had about, there was about 1.5 feet above the mud, but it wasn't one of those things where you could walk through the water in seine, because you just, you really had to spread your toes out wide so you didn't lose your shoes, because if you lose your shoes in a spot like that, you're gonna kind of be in trouble. But that, and when they get going, they've got the, when they're 4 or 5 inches and they've got those frills on the anal fin, they're just a fantastic fish.
Did you bring any of those eggs?
No, we did not. Those are out in the pond this year breeding. So there's going to be
nice.
Knock wood. If things go right, we'll have some of those on Aquabid this year, because so many people are looking for the multisquamata.
Yeah.
Hopefully we're gonna get that fish out.
I forgot you did fish outdoors. How many tubs do you set up?
I've got one pond. It's a 400-gallon. That's all my wife will let me set up, and she won't let me have electricity on it either. So it's a au naturel pond. It's about a foot of it's in the ground. So I dug that out, and then I've got a plastic liner, and then I've got those little landscape bricks that they put around trees sitting around. That's nice pink granite color, and I sit out there, and then I pour some white coral or some dolomite on the bottom, so I can see that it reflects, so you can see where the fish is hiding. And go out there, sit on those bricks, and drink your coffee and watch the rainbow fish swim by. So
nice.
So cross our fingers, hope we get some fish this fall.
So we're at the halfway point in the show. Got about a little more than 400 people watching, and only like 100 and some likes. So if you're enjoying this, give a thumbs up. If you hate it, give it a thumbs down, and then maybe Gary will never come back. But
You really like me. You
Yeah.
really like me.
that's how he's got to prove to his wife it was worth the trip, and how many likes is what that's going to be based on.
That's
So,
how it goes up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Vexingcast says, thank you, Real Fish Talk. That'd be this little humdinger we do here. For hosting an icon. Thank you, Gary, for being you. How do you respond to that? Thank you for being you.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's always awkward, right? Like, I
what's kind of funny about this is that I was just an average hobbyist. I mean, the cool thing was I went to my Missouri Aquarium Society. I found out they said, oh, there's a society in St. Louis that I can join. I went there. They introduced me to all sorts of fish. And even if they didn't know anything about rainbow fish, and I didn't know anything about rainbow fish at the time, they told me how to do things, how to get brine shrimp eggs, how to do this, how to raise these baby fish. Where's the best bargain that I could get all these used tanks for, so I didn't have to pay everything. It was so fantastic to have,
How old were you when you joined the club, roughly?
Gosh, I was probably about 28, 29 years old,
Okay.
30 years old, something like that. And one day we have something called a Breeders' Award program, and you can go to the Missouri Aquarium Society website, and we have all of our breeder award stuff, so you can see that I'm a master breeder. Now say that 3 times real fast, and you'll say something bad. But if you go there, you'll see that I bred a lot of things besides just rainbows, because you can't be a master breeder by just breeding cichlids or just breeding bettas or just breeding one particular thing. And the BAP chairperson at the time said, "Oh, Gary, you bred a couple of these rainbows just recently. Look at this book." And he showed me a picture of the Alan Cross book with that big red incisus on the front. But I opened the front cover up there, and there's a Herbert Axelrod, a big yellow, beautiful rainbow fish. And it's like, I'm in love. I've got to find some of these. And I spent the next year and a half looking for those. That's finally the first exotic fish I found. First time I went to the airport to find fish, and that was the
downhill slope forever, huh?
Yeah, the slippery slope.
Yeah.
So, but join aquarium clubs because you're going to get some good information. That's the best thing to do.
We've got a list of all the
okay.
local clubs that have submitted their local club on our website. So you go and you look at local clubs. If you have a local club that is meeting regularly and you have a website and it's not on there yet, let me know. And it's also outside of the U.S. too. So we've got some UK clubs, some from all around the world, and trying to create an active list, because there's some of those things you find online where it's like, oh, there's 7,000 clubs and 80% of them are no longer a club or something like that. So, he's got it up on the website. So yeah, you can kind of go to your state. Some states have a ton of clubs. Some only have one. Like we now have 2 or maybe 3 if you include saltwater, and then it might be a 4th. But we have one big one that Gary's speaking at tonight. And and did I hear you say earlier you're either becoming or you now are the vice president of your club, or?
Yeah, I'm becoming the vice president this coming. So that means I get to be involved in getting the speakers to come to my club. So I've got some pretty good. We're not totally confirmed on all of them yet, but I've got some pretty good speakers coming. I've got one coming from the East Coast that's going to be speaking on native plant collecting. So
Nice.
aquarium plant collecting. So that's kind of cool. And let me see who else. Right now, I'm having a brain fart right now on some.
We all do.
We have Jeremy Bash coming from Columbus,
Yep.
who's coming in. I think we've got him set up for April. So on his Columbia collecting trip.
Nice.
So it's certainly, hey, if I'm vice president, I can't do it just all rainbow fish.
Right.
I have to get plant people in there. I have to get cichlid people in
you
there.
have to tolerate these other fish species.
Oh no! I mean, it's so many fish,
You don't
so
have to
little,
tolerate
so
them.
little time. And what people don't understand, because I love to tease cichlid people, because the cichlid people are always going from, I like live bearers too, and they'd say, "Oh, feeder fish, rainbow fish. Oh, feeder fish." The people that use rainbow fish as dither fish on some of those cichlid tanks, they found out later on that, hey, I like those rainbow fish. They're keeping the colors all the time, and they end up getting rid of their cichlids. So,
Yeah.
But I love even the big Central American cichlids. In a second life, maybe I'd come back and collect some of the bigs, some of those big, Haitiensis and some of the other big Central Americans. They've got their own personality. So there's not too many fish that I don't really like, So.
JC says Massey has great auctions and swaps for anyone interested. Yeah.
Absolutely. If you're within a 5-hour drive of Missouri Aquarium Society, man, you ought to be going there. Let me see. I think our next one's coming up in August, and I think our swap is in October. I think I'm going to be drinking at the Catfish Convention when the swap comes
Yeah.
up, but certainly the auction
Priorities,
is
you know.
Yeah, priorities.
Yeah.
And I think they have one in November. I think they've got an auction in November too. So we've got a lot of good stuff. So it's a good place to get good tanks, good fish, and meet good people too.
And if you're looking for Gary's fish, just join his club, and
there
then
you go.
you'll wear him down. Eventually, be like, it's the 17th meeting in a row. Are you ever going to bring some eggs to auction off, or what?
Well, now that we're doing with the Missouri Aquarium Society, every year has what we call the Maasai Challenge. Last year it was for Odd Coning's Net Buster program. That's not
Yep.
the official name, but to get money
Yeah,
out
the
out to
anti-netting
Lake-
device things,
to Lake Malawi, and we donated. I think it was like $2,000 for
Nice.
that. In the past, we've done stuff for research for killifish. We've done some for one of the Amazon projects for all, and this year it's for the Running River project for Peter Unmack
for
and
the
his
Angfo
group.
thing, right?
For the
Yeah,
Angfo,
okay.
yeah. So that's that's a worthwhile thing. So I bring eggs to that all the time, and they've gotten pretty popular. Now that I've got the rainbow fish growing outside, and I've got the water hyacinths and the water lettuce, and it's growing like crazy. So some of that's going to come to the club meeting. That I'm going to say, well, it has. It has
Wow.
multisquamatus. I've got a radnicentris out there. Things that don't cross. I got a pseudomcgill out there.
That's kind of
and
amazing
they're-
to
yeah,
buy like
yeah.
the assorted pack.
Yeah.
Like I bought a water
Yeah.
hyacinth
Yeah.
and a kaleidoscope came out.
Yep, and you've got all these potentials. So those water hyacinths that might go for $1 or $2, all of a sudden are going for 10 or 11. Especially if I say, look, there's like, I'll pull those up. Sometimes I have 50, 60, 70 eggs.
I gotta start
They
running
just
this
produce
game.
better.
That's
Yeah.
a good game you got
Yeah.
going there.
Yeah. But they're all they're all you never put two rainbow fish that can cross together,
Yeah.
because that's one of the ultimate.
That's how we ended
no-nos.
up in
Yeah.
the problem with all the crosses to begin with.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's no good. Because for you guys that don't know, that a lot of the rainbows that are in the hobby, they got put together, they got crossed, they got put together to make color maybe a little bit better, depending on who's doing it. So now there's kind of a bigger movement to get pure stuff back into the hobby, because, how many species, how many different rainbows are there? Like 1,000? More?
Boy, no, there's not 1,000. It's not like cichlids or gobies.
Yeah.
But I should have been better prepared. I should have
Yeah.
known that number. That should have been one
Well,
of those
roughly
easy.
like, there's at
No.
least 300 or,
Yeah, there's probably 100, I think.
Okay.
And that there's a lot of them. And then there's a debate going on that's Goldie Eye complex and the trifasciatus.
Mm-hmm.
Is that going to be split up? And the Goldie Eye going to be split up into 5, 6? Who knows? Is the trifasciata going to be split up into 3, 4? Who knows? And then there's there's quite a few fish in Australia still, not much less New Guinea, that they know are not splendidas. They know they're not McCullochi. They're going to be something else, and it's just a matter of the Australian ichthyologist getting going and writing something up about them.
Yeah. So kind of in line with the crossing of rainbows, someone asked earlier, do you think photoshopping the color of rainbows to like enhance it for auctions and that kind of stuff is a problem?
It's a problem, and people should not do that, because and it's not just rainbow fish. It's anything. I do a digital fish photography talk too, taking digital photography for fish, and one of the things I do is I take a nice blue discus and say, you can take this and move the slider in Photoshop, and it's now a purple discus. And you shouldn't do that, because if people think especially if you're selling fish in aquabid, you can show these beautiful red colors, and the fish is brown. You've lost all credibility, and they're never going to come back to you. It can take you 10 years to build up credibility, and only 1 or 2 bad auctions or things like that. So be careful. Don't show the colors as true as possible. My potential problems as a photographer, there are several rainbow fish like Chillerthena blairii, which is a wonderful fish, but when you put a flash on it, you don't get the same colors as what you see with your eyes when you put that. So I will go, now with my camera, I can put the ISO up way high. I'll put on 3 or 4 of the LED lights on top of the tank to make it very bright, and then take pictures without the flash, so that way I get what the native fish looks like. There's a few others that are like that too, but most of them They're good with flash, but be as close to the real fish as possible, because if not, you don't need to cheat on the colors on rainbow fish, and a lot of times you shouldn't cheat on the colors of the other stuff. So don't cheat.
Yeah, that's good advice. I mean, that's what's the fish? Is there like a legendary fish, or I heard this rainbow fish exists, let's go try and find it? Is there like still the, I'm gonna find that one day, or I'm on the lookout?
You devil.
Oh.
There's a fish that every trip we've been on, we've gone up the Surmoy River, the upper Surmoy. There's a beautiful falls. I was only there one time at the falls, but the Surmoy Falls, when you look at the original reporting, Jerry Allen was in the Dutch Museum many years ago, and he saw these fish on a shelf from the original Dutch collection. It was 1913. And it was, he looked at it and said, "This is different than anything else." And he called it the Melanitania corona. There's only three or four specimens that are in the jar that he did this description from. And it was a 1.5 day walk above the falls. So we know where the falls are. And a lot of times they'll say, they're in this big river, but they're actually in some of the little side streams where they found this stuff. So every time we've gone there, we've gone up that road, we've followed the river and tried to look at all the side streams. Were they exactly correct? What's 1.5? I forget, 1.5 to 3 days, something like that. I forget exactly what it was.
10 miles a day.
And actually, in one of these ANCFA things, I think it's the new volume, the story about what might happen or what has happened is going to be about the Corona rainbow that's in there. So because we looked at it and thought, well, when we were trying to do the geographic points, was that a 1 or was that a 7? Because the Germans write a 7 with a slash through it. Were the Dutch doing the same thing? And we looked at that. Were they off? Did somebody? They've looked at the journals and trying to figure out where they really are. We've gone to 7 or 8 streams, and every time we go out, Johannes, which is the brains behind our collecting trip, looks at it and says, "Let's try this one over here." So we'll drive over there and. Sometimes after it happens, then it's waste half the day. But if we find something, it's going to be really cool. And it has longer fins. It looks interesting. It looks reddish in the jar, but it's been in the jar since 1913. So who knows what it looks like? But we'll know it when we see it, I think, is what we hope. But they've also got a lot of palm oil plantations there. So is it already lost to the hobby? It's just one of those things. We hope that. Something will pop up, so that's our hope.
So someone's asking the pH 7.5 to 8.2 for dwarf neon rainbows, and that made me think, like, what are your recommendations on, like, so let's say they're watching this, they're like, man, this guy's really into rainbows, now I want to be into rainbows. What's a tank setup look like for someone to be successful in your eyes?
I think rainbow fish are fairly undemanding. As we go around with our conductivity meters and our GH and KH, and we're measuring a lot of these parameters, we find out that sometimes the water is 20 microsiemen. That's almost RO water, and 40 microsiemen. But unless you're going to change 100% every hour, it's not a good thing to keep them at those things. The pH sometimes will be at 6.8. Sometimes it'll be at in the harder limestone lakes, it's 8.2. But these fish are extremely adaptable, and that's the key. Like a lot of people say, we don't really worry about the pH. It's the total ion concentration. So it's the general hardness, the GH, and the buffering capacity, the KH. Those are the things we kind of worry about. If you're out in the high desert in Colorado, in western Colorado, you've got 350 to 500 parts per million GH and 20 KH or something like that. It's like alkali desert. You're going to have trouble keeping and breeding rainbow fish. But most people don't have that problem. In Seattle, you've got almost rainwater, and that you need to add a little bicarb and maybe a little coral in your water.
That's what I end up doing.
So put a little bit of buffering capacity so it doesn't drop. I hardly ever worry about pH. The most important thing is
the most important thing is consistency.
Just
keeping it consistent
and change the water. If I say, hey, you want a mantra for rainbow fish, change the water, and feed decent foods.
Yeah.
So that's the big.
Yeah, that's one thing I've been trying to hammer home on people is, like, remember, if these things come from a stream, they need water changes. Just pretty flat out. A lot of stream stuff comes from that fresh water being automatically changed all day, all night, all the time. all the time.
And something else that's important when you're keeping rainbows, I know some people don't like to keep lids on their rainbow fish tanks. They jump like crazy, so I always keep a tight lid on there, keep everything closed up as much as possible, because otherwise if you only got a pair, you're only going to have one left pretty soon. And the other thing that really helps with tanks keeping the fish happy, even a lot of these fish just come from rocky areas, but you put a plant in there and they're so happy to have that plant in the tank. They do great. And, I was thinking about rainbow fish and plants and Seattle, and I thought, oh, yeah, that's another lead-in, because the Aquatic Gardeners Association is going to be out here the first weekend in May 2019.
Yep.
Rainbow fish are an excellent fish to have in with your rainbow fish. The plants and rainbow fish go together fantastically.
Hand in hand.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that thing, I'm just starting to get involved in.
That's always my issue.
Like
Like you were talking about cichlids earlier. It's like almost most of the big fancy cichlids and stuff. It's like they don't come from where plants are, and I'm like, if it's a fish that doesn't do plants, I'm kind of like, nah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, sometimes you have to deal with some of those too, but some of those silver dollars are pretty cool, and you could put plastic plants in with them. But
No,
yeah,
I can't do that.
So, I know
It's not that I can't. I won't.
YouTube's got controversy on this, so I want to hear your opinion. All right?
You're crazy. Oh wait, what's the question?
That means you're crazy. Okay. Your opinion on this issue. So, live blackworms. Some people are terrified that they kill fish, bring lots of disease and all that kind of stuff. Where do you sit on that? Are you like, oh, I feed them and I deworm once a year, or I don't find I have problems, or...
I would say go to the Missouri Aquarium Society website, look up our BAP program, and see how many different fish that my group has spawned and turned in. And that's almost a direct, especially if you start looking at just the last 10 years. We've been bringing in live blackworms to the club meetings for the last, I think it's
another
been at
reason
least,
to join?
At least 10 years. We get our fish from a group, a man that's called Eastern Aquatics, I believe is the name. And one of our
fish or your worms?
The worms.
Okay.
The worms come in through him. One of our members handles that. I think they actually weigh them out. And, they're already weighed out, so he doesn't have to mess with them. Quarter pound to a pound, and quarter pound prices cost a little bit more. But that way you go home and you feed your special fish. You put them in a shoebox with a tight fitting lid, and opaque, so your wife can't see them, and your friends that open the refrigerator can't see them and yell at you. And you clean them every day, and they do quite fine. Now, I get mine from the eastern side. Now, I've heard people that get some from out in the California area had troubles, and I don't know if it's because they weren't changing the water, if they were having problems with that particular source. I can't tell you that. I do know if you change the water every day, instead of being gray, they're looking like a nice black or a nice red color.
Yeah,
that's a good, healthy
like
worm. If they smell smell kind of funny. Sometimes they come in bad like that. We don't do it in July and August, but you want to stay away from the stinky worms. And sometimes you throw $25 down the drain. It's better than feeding sick fish to you. But knock on wood, I've never gotten any parasites that I've seen from the black worms.
And I've had the same experience, and I always like to ask people, without them knowing my experience, like, what is your experience? Because I think someone with some kind of authority on a forum or something has a bad experience, and then it becomes, oh yeah, that thing kills things, and it's like, oh well, that hasn't been my experience, so good to know.
And I also buy my bloodworms like a drug dealer. I get 25 kilos of bloodworms at a time, so I buy my frozen bloodworms and put them in the freezer, and then have to take the knife and the hammer to break open the things. And some people say, oh, bloodworms cause disease, and I haven't seen that either. So
I haven't.
Do they push them out of a Cessna out into a dairy field, and you have to run out there real quick?
I was seeing that movie the other day with Tom Cruise where he's pushing the drugs out in the life preserver. So yeah, Americana. Yeah, that was it. But no, that was oop.
Hey,
the running river?
No messing around with my light.
Hey, sorry.
Sure, we can talk about the running river. That's I don't want to say that's Peter Unmack's project, but he's sort of pushing that baby. They were quite successful with getting that fish saved. They pulled that, they collected that fish, brought it into the lab, bred about 1,000 of them, and then and then put it up above the waterfalls. So there's some of the pictures of the gorges and everything.
Wow, I wouldn't have thought it looked like that.
There's a cool little video online. I think I sent you that link also, but I don't remember because I was running trying to collect stuff and pulling stuff off the line. It should be able to find it on ANCFA also on that. But there's a nice little video by his master degree student that was collecting the fish, and that's not a good looking picture of that fish because it's a really neat neat little
that
fish.
picture's not
about
selling
a 2.5. That's about a 2.5 inch fish. Yeah, that's not it. I thought I sent you pictures also, JPEGs. So anyway, that's
Jimmy's fired.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough to get it all done at the same time, but it was a nice one. And
Wait, did you say Jimmy got fired?
Yeah. Then I said he's doing a good job.
No. There it is. There's that's better.
That's got some serious color in it.
That's some nice reds and those nice stripes. And again, look at the fingers there. That's about a 2.5 inch fish. And they show off really nice in aquarium, and they do great in a planted aquarium. And there's one that's about 2/3 that size now, the Lange rainbow. I brought some from the Wallace Road because that might end up being a couple of species, the Lange rainbow. And that's the project that they're working on now. And that one, there's still enough wild ones, and they can tell the difference between the splendidas and the females. So they're just collecting those, taking those up, and then bringing those up above a waterfall too. So hopefully they can save that. But it's not going to be quite the same crazy effort. But they still need money to do that. So if you can donate to that cause too, and if you do, make sure you put Corey's. You heard it on Corey's Co-op.
That's right.
So people, that it's important to say, hey, where you learned that information from. It's a good thing.
Have you ever been to that facility or the place where those fish were?
I wanted to go last year. I was going to Australia to speak, but I had been to Germany in June. I was I climbed in Yosemite at Half Dome in the mid-June, and in August I was in the entire month. I was in New Guinea, and then I was going to Australia. And it's like, oh gee, do I have enough time for another 4 or 5 day trip? And I just ended up going to the conference. So I had a chance, but I kind of blew it. And so now the more I'm thinking about it, I'm thinking I should have done it. But maybe sometime in the future I'll be able to get out there. And
I know I'm always a little leery of wait, how many trips are in a row?
Yeah.
Let's just add another one. I might be beat by the time we get to that trip.
Yeah, it gets a little crazy, but
what are we looking at here?
Yeah. I guess that's not a female on the bottom, is it? Maybe it is. It's hard to say, or maybe that's the cross, because some of the crosses look so similar, and the females for sure they all look alike. It was really difficult, and had to do DNA on every one of those. That's a tedium of, oh my goodness, to look at those and make sure that they were pure because they really didn't want
to. How long does it take to do the DNA? Because I'm thinking they got to put it in the tank, go home and do DNA and then figure out.
The DNA is fairly quick once you do it, but you want to get all 20 or 30 of them because the PCR, they have their own little, it's like an edge of a zipper essentially. So you've got one edge of a zipper and they've already got that piece, and then they come along with the DNA that puts it together and say, is the other one the same thing? And they make a whole bunch of copies, and then they check it out with the original, and it's the sequencing, I'm just a dumb biochemist. I don't do the DNA stuff, but they look at enough loci so they know what is and what isn't. So there's some Lange rainbow there, I think.
Wow,
isn't
that
it?
thing's.
Yeah, some of those.
I like that rainbow.
But see, they're much smaller. They're going to be in that 10-gallon tank
These
range
are all,
on down.
These are all good traits as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Is that in the hobby at all?
But I could
yes. It's. I just brought it over last year, so I'm now starting to breed it, and the actual first eggs that have ever been that's who is that? Can you read who that is? Carl Moy. That's it. I was blanking on his name. Carl's a great guy, and he really did a lot of that work with Peter. So, but that fish I brought over, and now it's just starting to get in the hobby. So the Lange, I think that's the first time it's ever been offered in the United States.
I'll take 300 of them.
Yeah. Well, you got to do the eggs, So there's about 40 or 50 eggs that were in there. But there's one of the waterfalls, I think, there that was one. I think they were 2 or 3 above the waterfall. But the fact that they were getting babies and going back, it meant it was successful, at least so far. Anything that gets flooded down is going to be gone. But if it stays up there, it'll be cool. So.
And this is all free to research, right? We didn't have to log in or anything. This is all.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right. That's
awesome.
So that way you can look at it and see. And this is one of those things because it's an unnamed species, and people said, "Oh, if you had a named species," and you're hearing this third hand. This I'm not the first person to do it. Said, it's an unnamed species. Well, if you had a species name, maybe we'd have it. The government over there. Maybe we had a target, and we do this. And the guy's saying, not exactly screw the government, but screw the government. We need to get this thing going. They had permission to translocate those rainbows, but they got all the funds and local hobbyists, especially in the United States, and
I think our
Seattle Aquarium,
they
kicked in a ton of money to help with that. And so he is sequencing all this stuff. The lab part of the work was free, but transporting all the stuff out there and the follow up, the DNA, those little primers and everything aren't cheap. So that was a lot of expense. So people over there did a lot for free. So we do what we can and hopefully save a few fish. There's a lot of the world that's going to hell in a handbasket. Some of those palm oil plantations are wiping everything out. It's not going to be there anymore. So
have you seen that in the time you've been collecting?
Oh, since 2005, it just gets worse and worse. Our missionary pilot friend over there will look at stuff and say, you know what, they're putting in all these roads and it's going to go over to a new river channel that, before there wasn't even a village over there, so maybe you can go over there. If it's enough valleys over, it might be a new species. So get there before the palm oil plantations do and before the gold miners do. Catch a fish, see if it's something different, and go from there. But some of that is going to go away and going to be extinct in 20 years from now. Hey, remember when this was there? So Dr. Paul Loisel, who's a great cichlid person, has always said to people, hey, one of the best ways you can keep a fish from going extinct is getting into the commercial fish hobby. So Jeffrey Christian doing his job in Indonesia, and I'm trying to get fish down to Seagrass and some of the other places down there. If they can keep them going successfully, and they're big now in Florida to not crossing those, at least a few of the places, we'll see the fish. Once you see the true fish, you'll be excited about them and want to get them.
All right, I got a question from a while ago, and I know you've talked about this, but they want to know more backstory, or at least why is TB seem to be more prevalent in rainbow fish? If you know.
Yeah, that's always a good question. Why does TB hit a rainbow fish better than it does Danios, easier than Danios and angelfish? And and TB has probably been in the local fish shops and everything. Maybe not. I don't know, but I think it's like a lot of things. Like our Native Americans were very sensitive to measles. The Eskimos got hit originally when the white settlers came up there and looked. They got it. Even the common cold was wiping them out. So I don't think they had the resistance to TB. I think that's part of the problem. And I just try to keep TB away from my fish. When I bring in a new fish, I'll isolate it for several months before I put it to my
Do you notice your wild-caught rainbows really getting TB, or?
I've never seen it, knock on wood again, that I've never seen it, never seen big ulcers in wild-caught rainbow fish. So I don't think it's over there. I think we've got in their aquariums. And if you go to the ANCFA aquarium site, there's a really good paper on tuberculosis, TB,
Wow.
The mycobacterium. It's really, TB, it's really mycobacterium, but there's somewhere in that section is something on finding the TB, because Adrian Tappan wrote a really good paper on that. So if you could Google Adrian Tappan, you'd probably find his myco paper. People have said things like, oh, you can put a UV light lamp on your aquarium and power that through, and that'll clean up just like you do ick, and that works great for ick because it gets all those floating parasites and gets those. But mycobacterium is a surface bacterium. It's on the leaf, it's on the fish, it's on biofilms, and biofilms, unless you're going to be able to get that leaf through your UV filter, it's not going to happen. You're not going to get rid of the mycobacterium that way. So that's just a totally bogus method of trying to get rid of it. So And Adrian goes through how to get rid of myco when it's in your tank. It's a horrible process. It's going to make you cry, because you throw away all your plants, you boil the gravel or put it in very hot water, you clean the tank perfectly so there's no dirt in it. Fill it up with hot water, and then put pool bleach, not chlorine bleach from your,
Yikes.
because that you'll kill yourself and kill all the fish in the fish room if you do that, because as the gas gets released.
Huh.
But very very hot water, and I've been able to clean a tank and then put it all back together. But I hate to lose plants. That just
Yeah.
But you just can't. No matter how hard you clean them, you can't trust that you'll be there.
Not even, well, I'm asking you like the answer, but something even like a potassium permanganate can't do it?
Yeah,
Like,
that can't do it. And there's been some drugs that people have tried, and they just are not very successful. What I do know is that the mycobacterium is. I almost had a minor in microbiology. They didn't give it at my university, but so I was a microbug guy too. That mycobacterium is a fairly low copy number. So there's not a whole lot of them. Like for some of these bacterial diseases that our fish get, there's a whole bunch of them around. And there's millions around when they burst 3 or 4 times. That's a low copy number. So what I do is if I saw a fish that had an ulcer on it, I want to breed it right away. So I'll take a clean mop, put that in their tank, make sure they put a lot of eggs in the mop, and instead of taking that mop and moving it, because that could easily move some mycobacterium, I'll take those eggs, pick them, put them into the tray, and make sure I get all the little pieces of Java moss, any dirt, any piece of yarn off there. And I've been able to break, and once I successfully get fry, I euthanize the adults and then disinfect that entire tank. And every time I've done that, it's 7, 8, 10 times now, I've been able to break the cycle. Just so long as you clean the tank and you don't put them back into a tank. And once the tank's been affected, you can't take the fish out of there and wait. I think even if you waited 2 or 3 years, it might still be in there.
stays dormant or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know for sure. I can't tell you as a scientist. I know that for sure, but it seems like people they go away for a month and they try to come back with something, because you can do that with ick. Take all the fish out and it'll go away. It dies.
Once it gets
boom,
past the gestation period.
It sounds like you just can't do that. So I just try to avoid, and that's get your fish from good sources. I think you'll do a lot better. So,
yeah. So Alvin Alejo asks, how does one become a master breeder? Do we register with a certain group? Who would give the title?
Missouri Aquarium Societies, we have several hoops that you have to jump through. The first time you breed 5 or 6 fish, I don't have that information right off the top of my head, but 5 or 6 different fish from a couple of 3 different groups, then you become a beginner breeder, and then you breed a few more, and you become a general breeder. You breed a few more, and again, it's from different groups. And we have easy fish, like some of the live bearers are only 5-point fish. Some of the Godiids, which are much harder to breed and have fewer fish, those are 10-point fish. Rainbowfish, most of them, once you get beyond raising the baby fry, they're about a 10-point fish, except for things like the feather fins, which are very small eggs. You get a few more points. Some of the tetras are only 10 points, but others are very hard to breed, and they're 15 points. A discus, which I think they've over calculated, is worth 20 points. But some of the gobies, which have very tiny eggs, are 20, 25 points. So that you have to be, you go to those aquarium societies. Almost every aquarium society has a Breeders' Award program, or the good ones do. And if you're one of those societies that don't have a Breeders' Award program, go to your board of directors and say, hey, I want to be the BOD director and start one. So because
I can think of
they're
one,
definitely a good thing to do.
One online program, which would be the CARES program. I think you could be not even part of a club. I think you could just be a person wanting, and so CARES fish is something is endangered or extinct and you're breeding it with a purpose. I think you could register with them, but breeding like just a rainbow that's not endangered or something wouldn't get you any points with them. It has to be an endangered species, but you could partake in that.
How do they prove that you actually bred it then?
I think you have to submit pictures and things like that, and then it is best with a club. Like usually you work with a club and submit.
Right.
But I do believe there is a way for you, because I think they really want, like if you have a crazy rare fish, they don't want to deter you from making more. They want to encourage you to do that.
Exactly.
And so I think there's a process, and maybe you got to do a video or, maybe you got to ship them fish. I don't know. But I think that's the one group online that you could actually be, I'm a member and actively participate. Oh, that's not true, because you can technically do it with the Live Bearer Association too.
You can.
Yeah.
I think the ACA does it, I think, with some of the clubs, because we've had some of our club members being the top breeder of the cichlids for the year and stuff like that. And our club also interacts with the CARES. So what we do for our members is if you have a fish that's on the cares list and you breed it, you get an extra 5 points.
Nice.
Also, if you're the first person to breed a fish, you get extra 5 points. And you can come back the next year and breed that same fish again if it's a cares fish and get more points for the
Nice.
DAP. So that encourages you to keep it around.
Yeah, I think we're giving out awards, and you get like the maintenance thing every year. You keep it going, and I think even cares, they give you better awards the longer you do it. So if you're like, oh, you've been doing that fish for 5 years, like here's an extra bonus to that because that's the long term thing, is longevity.
Yep.
So, is there a fish on your master breeding list? It's like a feather in your cap, like the hardest thing you did, where you're like, now that's something to be proud of.
For me, all the rainbows seem to be pretty easy. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's difficult to get it. You'll have a particular individual that's hard to turn on. If you've only got 2 or 3 of them, it's difficult to get them to breed. But featherfin rainbow in the rainbow fish is a much smaller egg. It takes a lot longer. It takes maybe 2 weeks sometimes before they'll eat baby brine shrimp. So
Yeah.
that would be the toughest one
Yikes.
there. The fish that I always call the feather in my cap is Malputa kretzeri. It's a little bitty betta gourami-like type fish. It's only about 1.25 inches long, and it took me forever to breed that fish.
Where did you get that fish, or why did you have that fish?
I just happened to get it from a beautiful, wonderful lady, Dolores Shear from Wet Thumb Aquatics many, many years ago up in Michigan. She's now passed, but she had these cool fish back in something called the Breeders Guild for any ancient people that are out there. It used to be a group that had a newsletter that got passed around, and people had all these cool fish that were kind of rare and unusual before Aqua bid, and we would trade them around. You couldn't be on there just to buy fish. You had to have other fish to offer up. Otherwise, it was only for breeders. And
That sounds
and if you didn't breed for
amazing.
it, you didn't put it up for long enough, they kicked you out of the club. So it was kind of a
And was
cool thing.
was
So-
it pretty cool? As in there was like a lot of cool stuff available, or
Oh,
was it
they-
someone like, yeah, I've got
Yeah,
some guppies.
Yeah,
that's
there was some cool stuff available. So yeah, there were some guppy people, but mainly it was people that were looking for unusual fish, because you tell them, hey, I've got Malputa kretzeri in your own club, and they're looking at the little bitty brown fish in the bag, and they're going, but once you look at the picture online, you go, wow, that was a really cool fish. So Lamprichthys tanganichthes was a good one for me, the Tanganyikan killifish, because again, it was a big blue fish. It kind of looked like a rainbow fish. I had to keep it in really hard water, and limestone just doesn't cut it for some of these Tanganyikans. You have to add the cichlid salts, because even though the limestone will eventually dissolve and get the water hard enough, the nitrates are crazy, and if you do a 50% water change, all of a sudden that water is going to go way back down. So you have to do the cichlid buffer. You have to do the cichlid salts, and I would take those little pleated filters and the HOT, and that's what they breed in, because they had humongous eggs. But they came out of the fish very small, and as they got into the water, they would expand. So they would go into the pleated filter and lay these eggs. How do they lay these pleated filters in Lake Tanganyika? But in Lake Tanganyika, they do it in the rock cracks. So they shove the egg into the rock,
putting those
and then it expands. And so it was so nice.
So
with
the
pleated
egg actually expands?
Yes, the egg actually
Like it
expands.
takes on water or
once
something?
it comes out of the female, it expands. So all of a sudden you'll see them stuck. You'll grab that pleated filter, pull it up, and take a turkey baster and just start basting the eggs out of the inside and the outside, and you can get 20 or 30, 40 eggs, a day, depending on how many fish.
I never
you've got
knew
there.
the
So
expanding
it
part. I knew
it
they
was
laid
fun.
on that, but I didn't know the expanding
But
part.
those eggs are literally a little bit over 1/8 in diameter. So I mean, it's a big honking egg, probably 5 times the mass of a rainbow fish egg. So they're really big. Yeah, you can see those, and those you could grab those and squeeze them, and they wouldn't pop. So they're big eggs. But that's a fun fish, and that was fun. And I lost that fish a while ago. I'm hoping to get eggs while I'm out here in Seattle and start them over again. So yeah, some fish are cool. You guys can't live by rainbow fish alone.
That's right. You have to keep other stuff to realize how good rainbows are still. You gotta these things. Oh, I love
If I won the lottery, I'd have my own aquarium, but it would be all fish hobbyist fish.
You wouldn't just like collect all the time? I kind of want to.
I don't know.
I don't know. I'm jealous of all the people that have fish that they've collected in their fish room. I think that's pretty fun because they've always got the cool story to go with it.
Yeah. Well, half my fish room is rainbow fish that I've had for a long time, and the other half, it's not quite that way totally, but it's a lot of these are fish I collected. So it is kind of fun to say that. And whether it's native fish, fish from Peru, fish from Africa, you say, I collected that.
Yeah.
And it's kind of cool, and you try to keep it around a little bit longer and work with it a little bit more, especially when you know that pretty soon it may not be there anymore.
Yeah, I've never been in that situation. I can't even imagine the guilt I would feel like, wait, I know it's not going to be there when I go back. Like, you got the weight of your shoulders, or the weight of the world on your shoulders going, and I brought these, I better... Because I know you've had some situations where it's like, you and one other guy have the last 4 specimens, maybe on the planet, and if you don't do something with it, it's gone.
Well, that's why we try to find people that are serious about, keeping a fish or something like that, and you get them out to those guys, and they get them to their friends, and, sometimes it stays around, sometimes it doesn't. So that's why, like Paul said, get them out to the commercial hobby, and once these guys get them out there, they crank them out and, keep them pure, you're going to have the fish around for a long time.
Here's a question. What's the smallest rainbow fish tank you recommend? I've thought about this question, because what you keep and breed in, the internet would probably just say is wrong. So what's your thoughts on tank size, rainbows, and what's the smallest tank for someone that's wanting a rainbow fish tank?
Well, it always depends on the rainbow fish. You certainly don't want to put a 5-inch rainbow fish in a 10-gallon tank, or one that's even going to grow that big. I don't think I would keep any of the big goldie eyes in a 10-gallon tank, but you could certainly keep a lot of the blue eyes in a 10-gallon tank, most of the blue eyes in a 10-gallon tank. Somebody's going to gasp out there, but I keep this little bitty saltwater, pretty much saltwater rainbow fish, Pseudomagil cyanodorsalis. I keep about 40, 45. I don't know. The number goes up and down as I put babies in there in a 10-gallon tank. But they're only about 3/4 of an inch if you step on them. I mean, they're really, really small, but they're neon blue and the brightest lemon yellow that you can ever imagine. And they, just like all the other pseudomagills, they take that dorsal fin and anal fin and stick them north and south and spin around in circles. And when you see them, you go, my goodness, what a cool fish. They will keep from saltwater concentration 1.011 to saltwater, seawater concentration 1.023, is it? So way up there. You just don't want to keep them with corals, I don't think, but beautiful fish, and it does fine in a 10-gallon tank. Gertrude will do fine in a 10-gallon tank. You could keep 3-4 pair in a 10-gallon tank, maybe even more than that. Some of the big pseudomagills, the ones that are some of the signifers that are 2.5-inch fish, they fight. They need at least 2 foot.
Really?
The Mellis, even though that fish is only about 1 inch long, it's kind of aggressive too. It needs a 2 foot, so that 18-inch wide footprint, 2 foot long, they need a little bit of room to get away from, the person that's losing can hide someplace. So those go good. The medium-sized rainbow fish, McCullochi. I'll start with a little bit smaller fish, the Pygmaea rainbow fish. That's only, when it's really fed a lot, gets to about maybe 1 3/4 inches.
I really want that fish.
And that fish, I think we have eggs tonight for that one. I can't remember on the list. I did some last night and I did some tonight.
Nice.
But anyway, that fish gets about 1.5 inches, and you could keep probably 2 or 3 pairs in a 10-gallon tank. But then after that, then you have to start going to that really that 2 foot footprint. McCullochi would be good in a 3 pairs in a 15-gallon or 20 high or something like that. And some of these smaller Bozemanii that we've got one now that's coming out, Melanitania, from the Kromsa River, which I've had mine now for 3 years, and it's only 2.5 inches. And I keep checking back in Germany because sometimes I underfeed my fish, and they're saying about 2.5 inches. And some of those earlier ones were getting to be 5 inches. So, if you don't overfeed, that would go good in certainly a 29-gallon, something like that. I like to skip 55s altogether. I just don't like that narrow tank. I like to go to the next size up, either the 40 breeder with the 3-foot tank, or the 75-gallon tanks. And then you can start putting a lot of other fish in there. 6, 8, 10 of a 4-inch rainbow is decent. So, and you know how the cichlid people, the Malawi cichlid people, you can learn from everybody. I learned from the guppy people. You keep your fry in a small tank and use the feeding frenzy. They all stay in a small area while you're feeding their fry, versus you put them in a 20 high, they wander all over the place. You learn from cichlid people too, the Malawi people. You don't put 3 Malawi in a tank. You put in 15, 20 fish, so the aggression gets spread around. Sometimes that works well for rainbow fish too, because even though they're not the same aggression level, they can. You put in 2 males into a tank, and they're going to fight until the alpha male kills the other one. So you have at least 3 males in there, maybe 5 males in there. You spread that aggression around. You change your water, and and that's the most important thing. Make sure your water parameters are right, and the fish tell you they tell you they're happy, and so you can get a lot more rainbow fish. Because some people say, oh man, you could put 6 rainbow fish in a 75-gallon tank. You can get a lot more than that. My 75, I think, has. That my community tank right now has, 40 fish in it. I have to do a lot of water changes, but those are my CYA fish, because I've got other fish breeding in one of the tanks, and those are the backups just in case something happens to the
What would be your
adults.
favorite big school to do of dwarfs, let's say?
Of dwarfs. Right
Or
now,
just a smaller variety.
I've got a 20 long that has about 18 of the pygmaea in it. That really is nice. I'm going to show a little bitty short video of that tonight. It's just about a 15-inch video or 15-second video, but half of it's out of focus. But you can see all this little blue, gunmetal blue and yellow stripes on their head, kind of orange swimming around. Those are nice. My Gary Lange do good in the 75-gallon tank too, so I've got to get the bettas out of there so they stop eating the eggs. But I've got about 10 of those in a 75, and they're just precious swimming. And it's all planted, so they just have a really good time. I think you have that on your. I think you even have that on your video. So those big goldie eye from Decay do. I've had 8 or 10 of those in a 75-gallon tank. When they get to be 5 inches, that's getting to be a little bit much fish, but they're just an awesome fish. There are some ugly rainbow fish out there, but not a whole lot. The ribivitata, I'm sitting there kind of looking upside down at the poster, thinking about some of those. Those are great. The Chilorthena fasciata in a cooler water tank, I call those the chameleon fish, because they'll change colors back and forth. There's several different location varieties, and you really do need to keep
What
those
temps,
separate.
in the wild, are some of these rainbows living in? Because I always think people are like, it's got to be 78, but isn't there somewhere the water's 62 right now?
Yeah. Well, you know what? That's all I always. People say, "Oh, I'm going to float that bag for a while to get it acclimated and all that jazz." It does rain in the tropics, and wherever you go. So there have been places we've been where we collected goldie-eyed Decay, for instance. The water got a little bit cool that we almost wanted to get out of it. You're thinking it's 95 degrees. You get out and you're trying to take pictures, and the glass is sweating too. So it's kind of funny because the water is so cold in the thing, and And Al and I was collected 72, 73. You have to go back and look at our notes, but it certainly was not. It was below 80 degrees. The cooler you keep the rainbow fish, and I tend to keep them between 70 and about 78. That's where I'd like to stay. They obviously in the summertime, even in the basement, they go above 80, especially if you got a lot of lights on.
Do you heat each tank or the room, or you just let it be?
For me, I heat the room, because heaters, even the best heater in the world, can fail on you. Now, I know a lot of people now are going with a thermostat, so they're plugging in their heaters into a thermostat and then sticking the thermostat in there, so that way, I guess that one can fail too, but it fails less often than the heater itself.
Sure.
So if a heater gets funky, that the thermostat will turn it off. Even if the heater's in fail mode, the thermostat turns it off, and it controls the situation. So you can actually use a failed heater right on a thermostat. So if it was stuck in the on position, I would. But and if I have to, I use heaters in my fry tanks because I want to get those at 80 to 82 degrees. So and I do use cheap heaters, but I take them every summer. Once it gets warm enough, I take them out and clean them up, so that way the suction cups last longer, and that way it's underwater less, and potential for having a failure is less. But if they kill fry, I'm not unhappy, but I'm not devastated if it kills a tank of adults.
So this question, Sam's asking, do you know where he can get the Melotonia garylangii in the UK? He's been looking for over a year. Do you know if someone's got them roughly in the UK, or at least in Europe, or someone?
There is a bowhead group. If you look, that's what we call our rainbow fish people.
Bowheads.
Bowheads. Yep. In the UK, so I think it's called UK Rainbowfish. There's a Facebook page, and I believe that some of those people have the Melotonia garylangii that are out there. There's a Scottish fellow, and he's going to kill me. I just it's just like forgetting Corey's name. So that's how bad it is
Uh-oh.
right now. Is that also has done a lot of rainbow fish out there. And the IRG, which if you are a member, if you're in England, you should join the IRG. Now, most of it's in German and I think in Dutch. But also they have a convention. It's actually going on this very last weekend. It went on, and you can get tons and tons of fish that way. But I'm almost positive they're in England right now. So look on that Facebook page and see what you can find. You'll have to join it, but you should be able to find somebody that can help you out.
Is that the best place to maybe get some of your attention? Is be active in the Facebook rainbow groups? I feel like I see you around there and that type of thing.
I think so. I try not to spend too much time on there because you spend so much time on there, pretty soon you go, man, I'm way behind on all those water changes.
Right.
I still have to keep up with the fish. I think that's.
But
really
is that
important.
the best method? If like, oh, I really wanted to, talk to Gary. Is that the best place to hang out, or do you have like, oh yeah,
Yeah, that's not a
email
bad
me?
place. And I always tease and say, hey, you want to hang out? Invite me to your aquarium club because
Yeah.
I've been to just about all the great aquarium clubs in the United States and some in Canada and heck some in Czech Republic and
Nice.
Australia. So it's get out and have a good time, and that's certainly a good way to do it. But Facebook is a decent way. If you have a good question about something, I'll try to answer it. And sometimes if you put up this ugly rainbow fish that you caught, that's an unknown rainbow fish from the pet store, go, what is this? And you did it with your camera phone and it's all fuzzy.
Yeah.
I probably won't answer you. So,
But at least there's other,
yeah.
I would.
And there's other people
other
out there that
rainbow
try to help
fish,
too.
yeah,
Yeah,
people there,
absolutely. And Rainbow Fish Live is a good spot. It's really quite active right now. So, and there's a Facebook. I should forget. There's a Facebook ANGFA also. So
Okay.
you can. There's Facebook is good for that sort of stuff. Certainly on the internet and Facebook, you get a lot of stuff that's not good answers. But you look often enough, you'll find 3 or 4 that are the right and 2 or 3 that are wrong. So you help make your own opinion.
Are there any of the links or stuff that we wanted to bring up that we haven't talked about yet, Jimmy?
Pretty much showed up all the links.
Okay. Good, because we're in the last, about 8 minutes or so, and you want to do the word of the day, Joel?
No, I'm good.
All right. I'll
You
it
want to do
then.
it?
I didn't want to have to say it. All right. The word of the day. This is the definition. I'm not getting into those syllable things. It's an adjective.
Mm-hmm.
Number 1, occurring every day. 2, belonging to each day, every day. 3, commonplace or ordinary. I myself did not know this word. I don't think you knew this word.
Nope.
So if a super smart guy didn't know this word. Did you know this word?
I've heard it.
You've done a lot of
anyone
you've done
ever
a lot of
say
book
it.
readings.
I've never
Yeah.
heard anyone ever say it. I've read it in like stupid sci-fi books.
Yeah.
Like what?
Yeah. It's not bowfish. Nope. It's not pineapple.
It's like one of those. This is one of those words that like people are like, check me out while I show off.
Yeah. This is a show off word, I think.
I've got a word of the day book at my house. I'm showing off.
Oh no, this might be one of those derived from Shakespeare again.
Yeah.
We've had a run. Somehow every Tuesday that word happens. Just
We
like,
got to get a different word of the day thing. This
Yeah.
one is weird.
this one is
This
weird.
one's weird.
Does anyone come? Nope. Pedestrian? No. Frequent? No.
Brodignian, bruh.
Brodignian.
It's not Brodignian because we already had that.
Rainbow Fish UK on Facebook. Yep.
There you go.
That's it.
Bowheads come up. There you go, Alex Carslaw.
Did someone
Sorry,
get it?
Ellie. Alex, I forgot the Scottish fellows. Thank you, Lori.
Oh,
Oh. Yeah.
Lori's Rainbow Brat. So she's a good source
Ah.
for rainbows too. She puts out a lot of eggs, and you can find those on Facebook. So
Okay.
that name just prompted me to.
So
oh,
some
yeah.
selling and stuff
Yeah,
happens on that
she
group
sells.
too?
She sells.
Okay.
Yeah. She
Good to
puts
know.
she puts that up every once in a while. $25 for 25 eggs, and I think
Wow.
$8 or $9 for shipping.
That's a deal.
Yeah, you get a little bit more than 25 eggs, but it's still you don't need 100 eggs. So it gets you, if you follow her directions, you'll do good.
Nice. Does she do it the same way you do it? The
Pretty
raising
much.
of?
Pretty
Okay.
much. I think she puts them on yarn, separates them, and puts some methylene blue and all that jazz. Everybody I keep hearing is really satisfied with their eggs, so that's
always a good
thing. So,
sign.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
All right, I'm going to read it one more time. It's an adjective occurring every day, belonging to each day, commonplace or ordinary. Usually, at least someone's Googled it by now and then pretended to be smart, but this one's literally, it might be even fooling Google at this point. Yeah. So, I want to remind everyone that came in late, if you're local, we're going to the Greater Seattle Aquarium Society meeting where Gary will be giving a talk. We thank him for coming here to speak for 2 hours. Then he's going to take a little bit of a break, drink some water, and then speak again. So he's doing double header, and he did a talk last night. So plenty of Gary going around. Show up. The club's free, and then we'll force you to join afterwards because you're going to have so much fun.
There it is.
Yes. Someone
Tell them they can't be. They have to be a member to bid on this stuff. No, that's not true. But
that is not true.
But maybe we can lie about it. Right?
Encourage. By the time you're done spending $6,000 on Rainbowfish eggs, you're like, what's another $15 to join? Why not? So yes, Dwayne Kitchell got it. Slightly misspelled, but I don't fault him for that because this word is kind of not even a word. Quotidian? Quotidian? Quotidian. Quotidian. Say that 3 times fast without swearing. And I can safely say I probably will never remember or use that word.
For sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
An everyday occurrence. Yeah. But we do have a few minutes left. Thank you for everyone that super chatted. As we did not say early, but we don't read all super chats. We just take questions that we think are good content. Leads to a better show overall. This is recorded. It's not downloaded. Okay. So this itself is recorded, and you can watch it on YouTube. If you're asking about Gary Lange's talk tonight, it may be recorded, but if it is, it would only be available to members.
Only to members.
Yes, it's very important to support the clubs and do those types of things. And I wanted to say because not all speakers agree to do that, so we always thank speakers that do allow that. And then we always ask, in addition to that if you were watching his talk, make sure that it's only paying members, and that's the thing. We're lucky that the Greater Seattle Aquarium Society brought Gary out. And then we were able to piggyback on that. Originally, I was going to be in Europe or something, and so it wasn't going to work out at all. But then it worked out. So we're thankful to Greater Seattle Aquarium Society. Come join us. Apparently, Bob won't be able to make it because he's got to work or something like that. But
Call in sick, man.
the rainbow guy just told you. He's called you out. You better call in sick.
I'm sick, boss.
He said he's really sick.
He actually is sick.
Oh, don't come then.
Okay.
Get everybody sick.
Now
I thought
he's
he said
sending
he's
you back
gonna
home.
have to work. So
Yeah, I thought he had to work
Yeah.
too. So
Okay.
yeah, don't come and give us the plague. I don't need plague
No plague.
2.0. Yeah. Let's see. What do we got? Last question. I know people are asking, why don't you write a book?
Adrian Tappan has a book online that's about 450 pages. Again, you go to that ANGFA page. I think there's a link there. It's a great book. The only thing I could kind of maybe fault him with, and not just because I'd like to add more stuff, would maybe be a rainbowfish breeding book. Other than that, he's covered it all. He doesn't have all the new fish in there, but at the same time, the online book works good. There's also, if you Google Gunter Schmiede, he has some fantastic books. And I forgot to send you that link. Sorry, Jimmy. He has some fantastic books on the fishes of Australia, and those are just beautiful. And a lot of them have rainbow fish. He has the color varieties of Trifasciata and Radnus centris ornatus. Just some wonderful pictures. All the signifers and everything. He's the greatest fish photographer in the world, as far as I'm concerned. Hands down, nobody's even close. Well, Neil Armstrong's close, but Gunther has it over everybody else, I think. So.
But you have been published in TFHs and that kind of stuff. So you have done some. Your work's out there.
I was cover on TFH for things. Cover on Amazonas. Cover on. Aquarium Fish magazine, which is no longer around, even a cover on FAMA. So I did all covered all the good stuff, and wrote several articles for Aquarium Fish magazine over the years. And
now you've been on the cover of
Amazon,
Real Fish Talk.
there
So
you
I mean,
go.
that's pretty much the most prestigious one. I didn't want to go out and
Yeah.
say it, but
Hey, I've covered them all. I can retire now.
That's
wait,
right.
Wait, I am retired, right?
Yeah.
Never retire from the fish hobby. They'll never take the rainbow fish except from my cold, dead hands.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for hanging out. We'll put out some little snippets. Share this around if you enjoyed it. Find other Rainbowfish nerds in the wings that don't know they're nerds yet. Make them watch. Make your grandma watch. Leave a lot of comments. Like everything we do. Support everything we do. And hopefully, if there's enough likes, your wife will let you come back sometime.
There you go. Right on, bowheads.
And with that, we're out.